In this guide, I'm going to go through the Starr Road and walk you through which brawlers I think are the best to unlock at every single tier. I'm also going to call out 10 specific brawlers that I think are worth putting a lot of your resources into upgrading. After we go through the Starr Road, I'll even go over the Chromatic brawlers as well. And if you're watching this and your account looks like mine where you have pretty much every brawler unlocked already, I ask that you just watch this video and comment if there's anything you specifically disagree with so that new players can see that and you can help them out as well. We're going to start with the daily gift streak just in case somebody is watching this in the first 15 days of them playing. Now, Daryl is the stronger option for brand new players who are still figuring out the controls and aiming and everything like that. Because you can get Penny or Daryl to level 9 just by logging in every single day, plus their free gadget and star power, I think you'll be much happier with a max out Penny than a max out Daryl, so I highly recommend picking her first. And she's the first brawler that I'm going to recommend dumping your resources into, because getting a high level brawler early on is going to give you a huge advantage in Club League, which is essential for new player progression. As for Griff or Edgar, the choice is honestly easy. You'll be tempted to go with Edgar, but he's literally one of the least competitive brawlers in the game, and Edgar is one of the strongest in the game. And Griff is the second brawler I highly recommend dumping as many resources into as possible. Now for the Starr Road, Nita is obviously the first brawler you're going to get because you can't choose another brawler. And that's the same for El Primo, Jesse, Poco, and Jackie. And Poco is actually the third brawler that I highly recommend putting a bunch of resources into. It might be a little boring to play healer, but he's actually very competitive. And the fact that you get him early on is just even better. Next is a choice between Brock and Barley, but you can actually kind of cheat this one, which I'll explain in a minute. But first, I wanted to thank Mech Arena for sponsoring this video. Click the link below to download now. Mech Arena is a fast-paced 5v5 mobile game where players fight inside giant unique mechs. Now each mech already has its own strengths and weaknesses, but on top of that, you can further customize each of them with different weapons to really make it your own. There's also several different game modes that you can play, including Control Point Clash and Team Deathmatch. Now if you download Mech Arena and use my QR code, you'll instantly gain $15 worth of rewards to boost your account, which is a lot. So click that link below or scan that QR code and you can play Mech Arena today for free. Once again, a huge thank you to Mech Arena for sponsoring this video. You can actually unlock Barley completely for free. All you have to do is go over to Supercell ID and connect an email address to your account. It'll safeguard your account in case you want to transfer it between devices or you lose it or something like that. But on top of that, it will give you Barley for free and then a Wizard Barley skin for free. And that means your next choice is going to be either Brock or Colt. And actually, I would recommend going with Brock first. And then you get to unlock your first epic brawler. Honestly, both Bo and Ems are equally good. So what I recommend doing is trying both of them and see what you think. You can always swap back and forth between them after you choose it. All you got to do is just go right here and then swap. And then you can try and you'll have a couple of days for you to figure out which one you're going to want to get anyway. My personal preference is actually Bo. After Bo or Ems, you'll have a choice between Colt or Bull. And honestly, both of them aren't that amazing. Bull's going to be easy for you to pick up as a brand new player. Colt actually does have an insane skill cap. Like, he's really hard to master. And if you can, he's actually pretty insane, much better than Bull is. But I think Bull's the better choice for newer players. Just don't dump a bunch of resources into him. Next, we have Dynamite or 8-Bit, and neither one of them is absolutely amazing, but 8-Bit is the better option. As for our next epic choice, absolutely B. In fact, B is the fourth brawler that I would recommend dumping your resources into. She's really great in bounty and knockout, and also as a great brawler for Brawl Ball, surprisingly, because she's such a good tank stopper. Our next choice is between Colt and Rosa. I know the pro players out here are screaming at me, but I've got to pick Rosa. Rosa's actually incredibly strong for new players, and if you can max her out with her star power and gadget and even a couple of gears, she's actually really insane. And that actually makes Rosa the fifth brawler that I highly recommend putting a bunch of resources into. After Rosa, you get this choice, and this is a no-brainer in my opinion. Carl all the way. Carl is so good. I feel like a lot of people actually undervalue Carl. He is really, really good in a lot of different game modes. He's actually the sixth brawler that I recommend dumping a bunch of resources into. Next are your epic brawlers, and this is also a no-brainer. Stu, absolutely. Honestly, Stu might be the most versatile assassin in the game. He is that good, and he is the seventh brawler that I recommend putting a lot of resources into, especially if you can get good with him. I mean, if you try him out and he's too hard for you, then maybe wait until later, but eventually he's amazing. And now we unlock your very first mythic brawler, and the choice is very easy. Mortis is fun, but he's not that good, and it's really hard to master. Terra is pretty okay. She's not awful. She's actually pretty good, but Jean is a very competitive option. He's not one that I recommend dumping a bunch of resources into, but he's definitely the next unlock in my opinion. Your next option is going to be Colt no matter what. He's the last rare brawler to unlock. For your next super rare brawler, this could go either way. New players, Daryl's going to be easier, but if you had to pick between these two throwers, I'd go with Tick. Next are some epic brawlers that honestly you could go either way. This is completely personal preference. I really like Pam. She was actually really close to being one of the brawlers that I recommend putting a lot of resources into, but I think she's a little bit niche gameplay. You could definitely go with either Frank or Ems if you wanted though. And if you're trying to, I'd go with Ems before Frank. Your next mythic brawler, Max, all the way. Max is a very competitive option, and she takes a little bit of getting used to, but there's a reason why the pros play Max so much. She's actually the 8th brawler I recommend putting a lot of resources into. And after you've unlocked Max, then you get to start unlocking your very first legendary brawler. I'm gonna tell you right now, most people will probably pick Leon. Leon is the most fun. He's the least consistent out of these three. Crow can be really good, but he fluctuates a lot with balance changes. Right now, he's pretty good, but sometimes he's really awful. On the other hand, Spike could be the most consistently strong brawler in Brawl Stars history. He might not be the #1 at the moment, but he's almost always a great option, and that's why I would select Spike, and he is the 9th brawler that I recommend dumping a ton of resources into. After unlocking your first legendary, you'll be at about 22 brawlers, and at this point you'll already have 9 of the 10 brawlers that I think are like the core ones. These are your roster. These are the ones you're going to be taking into competitive matches. The 10th brawler is not for a long time, so you can really focus on upgrading these current 9 brawlers. After you've unlocked Spike, these are your options right here. Personally, I would go with Rico. I'm really good with Rico in comparison to most people though, and so I think that most players should actually go with Daryl in this case. Next, you have a choice between Frank or Ems, and I like Frank so much, I really do, but I think Ems is the better option. Next are some mythic brawlers, and you can choose any one of these. I think most players will probably pick Mortis at this point, and that's completely fair. The more competitive option would be Tara. Next is kind of a tough decision. Gus is fairly new, and he's very strong at the moment, so it's an obvious yes, but for a very long-term guide that any player can look at, this is, I mean, Dynamite's hard to play. Rico's hard to play. Gus is very easy to play, but he's a support brawler. Overall though, I think Gus is the fair choice, and he's what I would select next. Next are some epic brawlers, and this is a no-brainer. Piper all the way. For your next legendary brawler, all 3 of these are going to be fairly competitive, so if you want to go with Leon, you absolutely can. However, my choice would be Sandy. Sandy's just a little bit more competitive, and his super is just insane. It really is. Next is your first choice between 4 brawlers, and I've got to go with Grom on this one. I'm sorry, Dynamite lovers, but next I would pick Rico. For your next mythic brawler, I would go with Squeak. And you know what? For your next epic brawler, I think it's finally time you have some fun with Edgar. The others are still going to be better options, I think, competitively, but it's going to be a while before you're upgrading them anyway. So I think it's fine for you to play Edgar now. Oh, next is a tough choice between 4 legendary brawlers. Leon or Crow are probably who I would pick. I'm gonna select Crow, but Leon's a very fair pick as well. Your next super rare brawler is going to be Dynamite because he's the last one that's actually available. And now we are finally at that point where we get to select the 10th best brawler for you to put all of your resources into, and that is Bonnie. Bonnie's a long-range damage dealer. She's an assassin. She's a tank. All of these things mix into one. Whenever you need her to be what you want her to be, she is there and ready to go. And here are all 10 of those brawlers, all maxed out with what I consider to be their best build, including their best gadget, star power, and both of their best gears as well. So you guys can grab a screenshot and save this for future reference. Okay, next we've got a legendary brawler, and I've got to be honest with you guys, this is very difficult for me to decide because Chester was just barely released, and he's one of the stronger, he's definitely the option right now. I first see him getting some nerfs though, so he might get nerfed, and I don't know how strong he's going to be, but he is a very solid damage dealer. But I think at this point, you've got to go with Leon. For your next epic brawler, I would probably go with Nani. I think that she's really good in knockout, so I like her playing there. For your next mythic brawler, I would go with Sprout. Then it's really a toss-up between BB and Frank. I prefer Frank. I think BB's actually probably a little bit better, but that's who I prefer. Next mythic brawler is a tough one. At the time of recording this, Gray is a brand new brawler, and he's definitely the strongest out of these 4 options. So I'm going to select him now. Just keep in mind that things may change as he gets maybe some nerfs or something like that. At this point, assuming Chester isn't nerfed into oblivion, I would choose him next. I don't don't know why that just popped up like that. But I would choose Chester next. If he has been nerfed into Oblivion, I would go with Amber next. But for now, we'll pick Chester. Next is your last epic, which is going to be BB. At this point, it's time to have some fun with Mortis for your epic brawler. For your next legendary, I would select Amber. Amber's a solid legendary brawler. She does a great job at countering tanks, whereas Meg kind of struggles on the DPS. Between Byron and Mr. P, it's honestly a toss-up right now. I would actually select Byron. And finally, our last legendary brawler, which is going to be Meg. It feels bad to be picked last, but here she is. Except Mr. P, I guess, is the last one, the true, real last one. And after you unlock Mr. P, welcome to fame on the Starr Road. But we still have chromatics to cover. Because of how the chromatics work, your first option every single time, unless you're spending money on gems or the Brawl Pass, is going to be Gale. So Gale's obviously the first choice. Next is a choice between Surge and Colette, and both are actually pretty solid options. I think Colette's a little bit harder to get used to, and Surge is actually pretty fun to play, so I'm gonna select Surge. And at this point, Lou and Ruffs are added into the pool, and Ruffs is really good. Lou's okay. I think Colette is the better option. With Belle and Buzz added in there, I've got to go with Belle. She's one of my favorite brawlers to play. She's especially excellent in Bounty and Knockout. And with that, we have Ash and Lola, who are also added into the pool of chromatics. At this point, I would actually go with Colonel Ruffs. He might not be the most fun brawler to play because like he's a support brawler, but he's actually really good. Then we have Fang and Eve added in there, and Eve is one of my favorite brawlers. I don't know that she's actually as good as I think she is, but I like playing her a lot. Going over water, it's so fun. And at this point, now you get to choose between Janet and Otis. Both of them are incredibly good. Janet has consistently been one of the best brawlers into the game, and in fact, once you unlock her, she would be a really amazing option for you to try and dump all of your resources into because she's so strong. With Otis and Sam added into the mix, unless Otis gets nerfed into Oblivion, he is going to be my next option. He's really good. As I'm recording this right now, my next choice would be Buster. I have a very strong hunch that he's going to get nerfed quite a bit, so I don't want to select him next. If you're playing right now and you can unlock Buster though, he's insane. He's really good. My next option though would be a choice between Lola or Fang, and Fang's probably more fun to play, so you'll probably go with him. I think Lola's a little bit more consistent though, so I'd go with Lola, then I would go with Fang, then I would assume Buster is going to be a little bit balanced, and he's actually really great, so we'll select him next. Next, I would pick Sam, then I would pick Buzz. In between Lou and Ash, I would pick Ash. And finally, the last brawler to pick would be Lou. Now, as for Mandy, I haven't played her at all competitively. She doesn't release until about a month from when I'm recording right now, so I honestly can't say too much about her. And with that, you'll have every single brawler in the game. So I hope this was actually helpful for you guys. Let me know in the comment section below. If you're new to the channel, I would really appreciate you guys subscribing. I create high quality Brawl Stars content that I think that you'll really enjoy, and also check out my other content, which you can enjoy right now. For now, this is KairosTime ticking by. We will see you in Brawl Stars.